If we look at our students' learning as a journey, then the individualized education plan is our roadmap. As a special education case manager, you will have several responsibilities. One of the more important responsibilities will be the development of the individualized education plan, and you'll do this with the assistance of the IEP team. You will also be responsible for providing instruction in the general education classroom as well as in the resource setting. You'll be responsible for supporting learning in the general education classroom by helping with remediation in specific areas, as well as helping to provide accommodations for students. The present level of performance in an IEP provides us with our starting points or our baselines. This part of our IEP should tell us where our students are performing. Furthermore, all the goals in the IEP should be based directly on information in the present level of performance. If an IEP does not have a good present level of performance, it is impossible to have an appropriate IEP. It is very important that the information in the present level of performance is current, that it is thorough, and that it provides information regarding all the deficit areas that a student has, and that the information also includes the student's strengths and learning preferences. If you are serving a student and you review that student's IEP and find that the present level of performance does not have adequate information, I would recommend that you hold another IEP meeting to correct that IEP. As a special education teacher, your first responsibility is to implement the IEP. It is very important that that legal document is written appropriately so that you can perform your job as you should. It is also required that the present level of performance addresses the student's functional skills. Examples of functional skills are communication skills, daily living skills, study skills, social skills, self-advocacy skills. Behavior would also fit in this area. Remember to address this. Even if the student doesn't have problems in these areas, you can still report on the fact that the student is doing well or doing well in comparison to their age-appropriate peers in these areas. If our IEP is our roadmap, then our post-secondary goals in that IEP are our ultimate destination. At the secondary level, everything that we do should be to work towards those ultimate goals of what the student's going to do once they leave us. Therefore, all of our goals, our annual goals, should be directly related to the post-secondary goals, and all of our instruction and accommodations should be geared towards mastering those goals. It is very important to remember that post-secondary goals have to be measurable, just like any other goal. They should be updated and refined with each IEP. Naturally, as students mature, their goals may change. This should be addressed at each IEP meeting. Since our post-secondary goals are our ultimate destination, we can look at our annual goals as targets along the way to that ultimate destination. These goals should tell everyone who looks at that IEP what that student will be accomplishing within this year that will help them get a little closer to that ultimate post-secondary goal. Even though all of the annual goals should be directly related to the post-secondary goals, it is still necessary to also include at least one actual transition goal. Accommodations are the vehicles for access to the curriculum. It's very important that students only receive accommodations that they need. We do not want to provide unnecessary accommodations or accommodations that give students an unfair advantage. They should only level the playing field for a student. And remember, when deciding on accommodations, to think of the way that we can help the students access the curriculum in the most independent fashion. For example, if a student can use the audio accommodation already built into a computer program, this is much better than having someone read to them. Or if a student can actually type a paper on a word processor, this is much better than having a scribe. Look at each accommodation very carefully and make sure that the student needs the accommodation, and make sure that you have provided the accommodation that allows for the most independence for that student. Just 2 words about services and placement. We are always obligated to the least restrictive environment. Therefore, we cannot pull a student out of the Gen Ed curriculum unless we can show that it's impossible for them to have their educational needs met within the inclusive environment with supports. Another thing that's very important is that all services should be individualized. Never say that you're going to serve students a specific way because that's the way you serve all students in the 10th grade or all students with a learning disability. It's very important that our services are determined by the student's specific needs. Since individual goals will be guiding your instruction in many areas, it is very important that you are also monitoring progress in these goals. In fact, we are obligated to measure and report progress in goals at least as often as students receive report card grades. I can't stress to you how important it is that your goals are measurable and that you are collecting data on these in an objective way. It is very difficult, or actually impossible, to show that a student has made progress if you do not have baseline information. This goes back to our present level of performance, and in our school district we also require baseline actually embedded within the goal. Without baseline information either in the PLOP or in the goal, it is impossible to show that a student is making progress. It is important that you know the IEPs of all the students that you will be serving. Sometimes you will actually inherit IEPs from other case managers. It is my suggestion that you review these IEPs carefully, and if they are not written correctly, correct them. Once you are a student's case manager, you are responsible for that IEP. And personally, as a professional, I would not want to be responsible for an IEP that was not written correctly. Secondly, you must make sure that IEPs are implemented as they are written. This is your job. An IEP is a legal document, and it must be implemented as written. Third, make sure that if it's being implemented, that it is effective. If an IEP is not effective, it's time to go back to the table, get with your IEP team, and look at that IEP again.